Hi and welcome to Nature's Path to Wellness. My name is Wendy and today we're going to be talking about fasting, specifically extended water fasting. So typically in fasting there are about 5 phases. In phase 1, it's the 8 to 12 hour period, and most of us, or at least many of us, do fast in a typical day for about 8 to 12 hours. Because we often have our dinner and then we may relax for a little while in the evening and then go to bed and sleep. And by the time we get up in the morning, usually about 8 to 10 hours at least has gone by. And so we have sort of done that first phase of fasting almost every day. And we call what we have in the morning break fast or breakfast, right? So that's when we've fasted overnight and then we've come to a period of eating again. So the 8 to 12 hours of fasting, what happens is blood glucose starts to drop. And in the morning, you may experience hunger and some food cravings. You're starting to think about what you might want to eat. But if you go into the 12-hour period, you may start having some trouble concentrating. And then in phase 2, which is the 18 hours plus, you are into, as long as you haven't had anything to eat in that period of time, you've been drinking water, you are in the ketosis phase. And so basically we're starting to use the fat stores in our body and the ketones as the fuel for heart, muscles, and the brain. And the ketones help suppress your appetite at this point. Hunger should start to subside. It may take a little longer for some, and fasting gets easier from this point, typically. And this depends, of course, on how often you've fasted in the past or if you've fasted at all. And it comes from experience, basically. So what are the benefits of fasting beyond 18 hours? Well, you might start to lose a little bit of weight. And of course, we have to consider that some of this weight is, of course, going to be water weight, at least in the beginning. And we will be getting into, like I mentioned before, the fat burning mode. So we're going to be starting to, instead of burning glucose for energy, we're going to be burning fat for energy. And then the hormone ghrelin, which I always think is funny, it sounds like gremlin, and that is the hormone that actually, it's known as the hunger hormone, and it's the hormone that makes us want to eat. That hormone is somewhat suppressed in that 18 plus hours. Your insulin levels will begin to stabilize at this point too, which is something that's really incredible for people who have type 2 diabetes. And there is a lot of research that shows that fasting can be very helpful for people's blood glucose levels, especially if they're type 2 diabetic. Food cravings will stop for most people. Some people may be still struggling with food cravings at this point, but for many it will begin to sort of level off. So we're entering into phase 3, and this is the 24-hour plus mark. And often people say that this is really the toughest part of fasting, and at this stage you're entering full ketosis. And you may want to note that you may experience gas, soft stools, and or diarrhea at this point. Your body's basically eliminating everything that's been in your system. So this is something to just make a note of if you're going to be going on a fast. So what are the benefits of fasting beyond the 24-hour point? Insulin sensitivity may start to increase, which is excellent for those, again, who have type 2 diabetes. Your blood pressure may start to lower, which is great if you are experiencing high blood pressure. And again, we're using the fat stores and the ketones to fuel your heart and your muscles and your brain. And once again, the ketones are kicking in to help suppress your appetite. And then the hunger at this point really should start to subside, and fasting should begin to get easier. So what are the benefits of fasting beyond 24 hours? There is some research in this area that talks about how cancer cells may be killed off beyond the fasting of 24 hours. without getting into too much about proteins and how they all work exactly, but the amino acid sequence, which is building your protein structure, and sometimes things get a little bit misguided and we end up with misfolded proteins. And so at this point, beyond the 24 hours, your body is going to start clearing out some of those misfolded proteins. It's like a cleanup session beyond this point. So there's going to be the removal of pathogens, and you're going to be having, again, back to the misfolded proteins. This is linked to Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases. And so this is kind of an exciting phase, because people that are experiencing these types of issues, if they are able to go onto a fast that's 24 hours and beyond, there is some obvious benefit to that. When your cells are stressed, they become more efficient. And so obviously, having a doing a fast that's beyond the 24-hour period does create some stress in your body initially, and that is when the cells actually become more efficient, which is interesting. And as you age, autophagy actually declines. And so by fasting, and especially if you're getting beyond the 18 and 24-hour mark, the autophagy in your, that goes on in your body, is actually increased by fasting. If we're talking about autophagy and you've never heard of the expression or the word autophagy, what it actually means is self-devouring, and it's the degradation of cells and the cleaning out of the damaged parts of the cells. So basically, your body is doing like a spring cleaning. If you are experiencing any inflammation in your body, in your hips, in your knees, in your joints, your various joints, this is a really good opportunity to actually help reduce inflammation in your body. If you can sustain a fast that goes beyond the 18 and 24-hour mark, you will notice a marked improvement in inflammation in your body. In the phase 4, we're moving in the 36 to 48-hour range. We're definitely beyond any sort of a intermittent type fast, and we're moving into a much longer fast. And this goes on, it can go on for multiple days. I've known people who have fasted for 30 plus days. So it just depends. And what I do encourage people who are fasting for the first time is to definitely build up to it. You don't want to go just on a recommendation of a friend who says, hey, I'm going to be doing a fast, and I'd like to try doing 7 or 10 or 12 days, and you've never fasted before. This is something that you want to build up to. I suggest people that I work with to maybe start with intermittent fasting and then move up to, maybe a 2 to 3 day fast. And even that can be difficult for some people initially, and then start to move up beyond that. It can be very difficult to fast. And again, the first 24 hours and even the first 36 hours can be very, very difficult for some people. And it's often when a lot of people fail, they quit, they decide to stop fasting. Something that's a benefit of fasting beyond the 36 and 48-hour range is that your hormone levels begin to shift in a positive way. You'll be getting more mental clarity. So remember, we talked about in the beginning of the first part of the fast, and you might be going beyond, say, the 12-hour range, and at that point you might be experiencing problems with concentration and you feel like you really desperately need to have something to eat. But most people talk about this 36-hour period, like day 2, if they're fasting, they kind of wake up, they're tired, they're groggy, they don't have a lot of energy, but suddenly there's this huge shift that begins to happen in the 36-hour plus range, where people typically have more energy and especially mental clarity. This is interesting. A 400%, or at least up to a 400% increase in human growth hormone. So what does human growth hormone do? It actually helps to slow the aging process. It is responsible for helping with cell regeneration, and it helps with muscle repair, and it also helps with wound healing. So I've heard a lot of people talk about this range sort of around the 48-hour period and maybe a little bit beyond, where they've woken up and they started feeling their skin and they felt like their skin felt completely different. If they had acne, a lot of their acne has cleared up, and they've gotten to a period where it just feels like baby soft skin, and they couldn't stop touching their face because they were incredibly surprised by how soft their skin was. Now we're moving into the 72-hour range, and if you can get to that point, basically your full immune system has been boosted. So, this period of this time of year, I always find it funny, people talk about this being the cold and flu season, but if we really were to look at it, it's like it's the Halloween season, it is the Thanksgiving season, Christmas, New Year's, and what are people doing? Kids are having tons of chocolate and candy, and let's face it, a lot of the parents are rating their kids Halloween chocolates and candies, and people are, celebrating Thanksgiving in this time of year, so they're having lots of foods and get-togethers with other family members and eating things that they might not typically eat, and probably eating a lot more of it. And then of course comes Christmas and then New Year's. So we're really wreaking a lot of havoc on our body in terms of what we're eating. And so I think that this is a terrific time of year to do a reset on your body and to consider doing a fast, again, at whatever your level is and based on what your experience is. And so if you can get into a fast that is going on for a long period of time, and definitely 72 hours and beyond, you're looking at your immune system becoming completely boosted, and who doesn't need that at this time of year? Some things to note before you start a fast. If you are a type 1 diabetic, you definitely don't want to be fasting. I don't think this is recommended for any type 1 diabetic. Again, always consult with your healthcare or professional, your doctor, your nutritionist, but definitely type 1 diabetic isn't somebody who should be going on an extended fast. You shouldn't be going on an extended fast if you are pregnant, and of course, if you are nursing or breastfeeding. This is not the time to be going on an extended fast. The child that's developing inside of you obviously needs all of those nutrients that you are consuming when you are eating, and it is the same thing when you're breastfeeding. If you, some people go on a fast because they want to lose weight, and some people, by the same token, feel like after they've had a child that they want to start losing weight. And trust me, we can talk about that in another video. But if you're breastfeeding, that will help to bring some of the weight off. And this is not a time that you want to be doing an extended fast. If you're a young child, so I'm not sure that a young child's going to be watching this video, but if you're a parent of a young child, that is not somebody that you want to be having going on an extended fast. Now, there may be some medical reasons that I'm obviously not going to cover in this video here, where a child maybe perhaps needs to go on a fast of some sort under medical supervision, but I would never recommend a young child going on an extended fast. So if you're a type 2 diabetic, you also want to use caution. Now, we talked about how the hormone insulin can become regulated, and that is definitely a benefit of fasting, but it is something that you want to be really careful of, especially if you are using insulin. Insulin's meant to cover sort of whatever you're eating. So if you're eating carbs and sugars and all those kinds of things, you're going to have the level of insulin in your body to cover, your blood sugar levels that are perhaps spiking and whatnot because of being type 2 diabetic. Now, if you're going to be having insulin, obviously you're measuring your blood sugars, and I understand that, but you also just want to be using caution if you're thinking about going on an extended fast and you're type 2 diabetic who's using insulin. And this, by the same token, if you're using diabetes medication, you also want to use caution because, again, the medication is working to help bring down your blood sugar levels. And if your blood sugar levels are already coming down because of the fasting, you're going to have a twofold issue there. So that is something that I would advise extreme caution. Again, if you're type 2 diabetic, and, maybe talk to your doctor, your healthcare professional, or nutritionist before you decide to go on an extended fast. So what can you consume when you're doing an extended water fast? Well, water is one of the main things that you'll be consuming, and pretty much just about the only thing. You can have herbal tea. That's fine if you want to have an herbal tea. And I think that, well, fasting, water fasting, if we're just drinking water all the time, could become quite difficult. And by having something sort of break up your day, such as an herbal tea, it's almost like a bit of a reward. So maybe some herbal tea in the morning, a little bit of water, and then another herbal tea later. You can have sparkling water. Now, there are some schools of thought that say you can't. I support somebody who wants to go on an extended fast having sparkling water, especially if that is, again, like the herbal tea, kind of like maybe like a treat as you're getting into your second and third and fourth days and you're, struggling to maintain not eating. I think looking forward to having a sparkling water with a wedge of lemon in it can be a bit of a reward to help keep you going. Lemon water, of course, like I mentioned, the wedge of lemon in the sparkling water. Of course, you can have plain water with a wedge of lemon in there. And you can definitely be taking supplements and nutraceuticals. So something to consider, I guess, though, is that because you're not going to be consuming fats at this time, you may want to consider just looking at even just a multivitamin if you can, or some specific vitamins that you're taking, like a B complex can be good, and a C, just for example. If we think about the fat soluble vitamins, so the D, A, K, and E, they are absorbed by fat in your diet, and they are best taken with a meal that has some fat in it in order to be absorbed properly in your diet. So those ones are ones that you may want to not take during an extended fast. Electrolytes. Now this is going to be super important, is the electrolytes. So for example, well, obviously sodium, potassium, and calcium are the electrolytes. And if you're starting to feel really lightheaded as you're going along in your fast, it can help to add just a little pinch of sea salt. I'm not talking about the iodized table salt. I would stay away from that. I would stay away from that anyways, never mind fasting or not. But a little bit of sea salt, if you can just put a pinch of that in your water, and you can do that throughout the day, that will help to alleviate any headaches that you're feeling as you're fasting. So what happens is, as we're fasting, obviously the electrolyte levels do go down. I guess this is a really obvious one. There are some things to avoid while you're doing an extended fast. And this is food. I mean, obviously, but I think it bears saying, because some people will jump into an extended fast. Well, hopefully they've prepared for the extended fast, but they'll go into the extended fast and they're hungry and they think, oh, if I just have a little of this or a few berries won't hurt. It can take away from your overall goals. So if you're trying to get into ketosis and then you start to eat food, obviously that's going to change being in ketosis. You won't be in ketosis anymore. If you, are going to have a slice of toast or something, that is obviously, it's not going to be helpful for the fast. So if you're going on a serious fast and it's an extended water fast, you obviously want to avoid food. Now, non-nutritive sweeteners. So we're talking about basically any of the things that have aspartame in it, that type of thing. You want to definitely stay away from any of those. I'm not sure why you would need them. Maybe some people use them in their herbal tea or whatnot, but I would definitely stay away from that. And that actually a point I should add is to also stay away from honey. Don't be adding any honey to your tea, because what's happening is you're sort of restarting those digestive enzymes and things. Your digestive system is then having to be, it's reactivated, right? When you're in a fast and you want your digestive system to basically be doing nothing at that point. So that goes the same for any stevias or anything like that. I would stay away from all of those. So try not to add those. Pick an herbal tea if you're going to be having herbal tea that's got a nice flavor to it. I like a peach one sometimes, but just something that's already got enough flavor that you don't need to add a sweetener. Broth. Some people think, okay, well, I'm doing an extended fast and broth is essentially water, so it's going to be okay to have broth. But if you are in an extended fast, broth would be a no. Again, you're starting up your digestive system. I think this one should be obvious, but I'm going to mention it, and that's coffee with cream and sweetener. Cream, obviously, whether it's a milk or an oat or coconut cream, any of these types of things that people are adding to coffee, again, it's going to be restarting your digestive system, and so it's something that you want to completely avoid. I would not want to be having coffee at all. We've talked about herbal teas that don't contain caffeine, and I feel that those are quite safe, but coffee, I would stay away from coffee altogether while you're doing an extended fast. And so there should be some preparation before jumping into a fast. You don't want to just go in with 2 feet and not have taken some time to prepare it. So the days leading up to a fast, I would suggest that you start preparing by eating a lot lighter before your extended fast. So having salads, more salads, not having so much in the way of meat and that kind of thing. Having some fresh fruits and veggies and nuts and seeds, just really dialing back what you're putting into your digestive system in the days that are leading up to the fast. And of course, now we come to the part about breaking the fast. So you've succeeded to get in 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or any number of days beyond that. And you're going to be coming to a point where your body has gotten used to not having anything in the digestive system. So you don't want to go out and start, cramming in sandwiches and toast and meat and all kinds of different things into your body. You want to start extremely slowly when putting food back into your body after being on a fast. So you've got a reduction in digestive enzymes that's happened during this time. One of the things that you might want to consider is adding some apple cider vinegar. So I don't mean just taking it straight, but maybe some warm water with a little bit of lemon and a teaspoon or a little bit more of apple cider, just to start the digestive process going again. You can take a little bit of coconut oil to help build or rebuild the healthy gut bacteria after fasting. And now is the time where you can start considering adding some broth. So of course that's going to have a bit of sodium in it. It's going to start to help you feel a little bit better, depending on how it's made, or if you've made it homemade, what you've added to it. And you can add, so maybe a bit of broth, and then maybe perhaps later in the day you could go and you could have some like a vegetable soup. I would caution jumping back into meat right away, especially in the first day after fasting. I would stick to things that are easy to digest for your system. Cooked green veggies, I don't suggest going out and eating a whole big giant raw salad because it is a bit hard on your body, like if you've got hard raw carrots and all that kind of thing in there. So you can take some greens that are cooked lightly or steamed lightly and start with that. Again, just starting back very slowly. You want to be kind to your body after doing a long fast. So if an extended fast is not something that you feel that you're up to, that's okay, because you can actually, that might be more than somebody wants to take on initially, and especially if you've never fasted at all before. And we're not talking about that sort of 8 to 12 hours, which most people do overnight before breakfast, but we're talking about 2 and 3 day fasts. If you've not done them before, that can be a lot to work up to, and it can become a little bit overwhelming when the hunger starts to set in, and it's almost like maybe a bit of a panic for somebody. You've got the food cravings and what do I do? So it takes a lot of mental strength to do a fast, and physical strength. And, of course, there are people that do fasting for spiritual reasons. So the spiritual strength that you've got and that you need to call upon in order to get through a fast. So I would encourage anybody who's not done fasting to build up again. Start out slow. Start out by saying, okay, maybe today I'm going to do a 16-hour or an 18-hour fast, and build up from there. Thank you for watching, and I hope I was able to share some important information about fasting with you today. And if you want to share how a fast has gone that you may have recently done, please do so in the comments. I would love to hear what your experience was, and I look forward to sharing with you again next time.